Hello, and welcome to Attunement. In this podcast, I, with the help of some of my powerful friends, will be exploring healing personal, intergenerational, and collective wounds, the side effects of oppressive power structures, activation of connection to spirit, oneness and awareness, and the intersectionality of it all. Let's connect the dots. Hello and welcome to the world of Attunement. My name is Jauregui. I am a singer, songwriter, artist, thinker, feeler, sharer, believer, dreamer. And I decided why not add podcaster to the repertoire. For those of you who are here following me to this space after being with me since 2020, I want to thank you so much for following the thoughts and the conversations and for loyally following me up until this point. I know that this attunement has taken on so many different formats since I began her. And so I wanted to give my new listeners or anyone who's new here or anyone who's coming back to the space after a while, just kind of a refresher on what attunement is, what my intention is with attunement, and why I have decided to share this podcast with the world. So, attunement was kind of a brainchild of mine from the pandemic. I feel like many of us was moving through a lot during those moments of stillness and silence. I was privileged enough to get the chance to just kind of be with myself in my apartment. And a lot came up being in isolation and having all of that time to think when I had been so on the go nonstop until almost the point of burnout for so many years prior to that through my career in the music industry. And it was a shock and also really a distressing time for me because so many things that I thought were going to be the case weren't, and it was a space of a lot of mental, emotional instability. And then at the same time, getting the blessing and opportunity to have the time to really check in with myself, to learn about myself and learn my body. And there was a lot that came to me during that time. And so attunement was a space that I wanted to create intentionally on my Instagram lives to share with my audience the different things that I was experiencing and like the different healing modalities that were helping me get through my anxieties and my fears and the depression that I had kind of been suppressing for a really long time. And that would come to me in these waves. And so I figured, I'm finding all of these different things. I'm following all these different people who are helping me learn more about the world, about myself. And I really want to have these conversations with these people so that others can learn as well. And so I can even keep learning and ask questions and get further into my own healing journey and process. When I first started this out, I thought I had all the tools. And I was like, I want to share the tools that I have. And over the course of these 4 years since I started attunement, I've been in the furrows of healing for real, like going through wanting to be present and wanting to not be present in my healing journey. So from kind of the ebbs and flows of it all. And what I've learned is that it is not a linear process. And in the beginning, I feel like it was like, okay, if I have all of these tools now that help me, and if I share these tools with the world, then everyone can heal together. And while that's still very much my intention, is to have these healing conversations to help connect the dots, to help us understand the ways in which all of the systems that are at play in the world on a national and global level really have a genuine effect on our psyches and really have a genuine effect on how we're able to navigate this world. And so that's the space that attunement is here to create, a space to have uncomfortable conversations, healing conversations, kind of left of field, left of center conversations, indigenous wisdom-based conversations, and just kind of the ways that we can all get together to dismantle white supremacy within ourselves, within our communities, and the world at large, hopefully, is really what the goal is. Settler colonialism and empire really is just not serving us. And we're kind of moving towards this fork in the road as humanity that I feel like these episodes really speak to. We're really talking and getting into the nitty-gritty of the micro and the macro of the problems that we're facing as a collective. Because while the American consciousness or US consciousness is constantly trying to convince us that we're super separated and individualistic and that our lives are not intertwined with those of our brothers and sisters in Palestine or in the Congo or in Sudan, or even in, a different state than us, these are lies. And these are constructs that are put in place to keep us separated from one another so that those who are in charge of the situation right now can continue to exploit and extract with impunity and in peace, while so many must suffer for this to be maintained. And so, again, attunement, my intention with it is really to have the conversations that allow us to be more creative and imaginative and use our imaginations, that conversations that give us permission within ourselves and within our communities and on a macro level to really imagine what this world could look like if we were to expand beyond the fear narrative of scarcity and lack that are unsustainable. We can't get through this without one another. And we also can't make paradigm shifts without one another. And I really hope that these conversations inspire you to either even just within yourself or to share with others as well our journeys and our possibilities, and really open you up and open us all up, because myself included, there's points of hopelessness that I go through often. And I feel like this podcast was also me giving myself hope in the midst of the pandemic and over the course of the years that I have been recording these episodes. So the episodes that you're going to receive, there's going to be different capsules. So one of the capsules is going to contain the 10 episodes that happened on my Instagram live that were gratefully recorded by a fan who made a whole Spotify page for me and everything. So you'll have access to those, which are kind of like a prelude, if you will, a time capsule era. And then for those of you who were a part of my Patreon before, actually, I'll give you guys the whole backstory on Attunement. Once she moved past being my Instagram live, I then took her over to Patreon, and she was, I refer to my podcast, I refer to Attunement as a she. So if that was confusing for you, I'm referring to Attunement when I'm saying she. So I converted her into a, behind a paywall podcast, and amazing loyal fans really supported me during that time by contributing to the Patreon and receiving, different goodies from me, and also getting exclusive rights to listen to the podcast. And then I was with Patreon for about a year, and then I moved over to LimeWire and did a deal with them. But I think the back end on LimeWire wasn't as efficient nor accommodating to my fans as Patreon was. And so, I think I'm definitely going to go back to Patreon one day, because I really feel like it was an amazing platform for me to connect with my fans, and in a way that was sustainable for me as well. Because as an independent artist, in 2020, I also went independent. So in the midst of all of this stuff, I also took back ownership of my own music. And it was actually a huge part of my decision to create this podcast so that I could also sustain myself and connect with my fans in a way that felt more organic, which brought a lot of lessons that I had to learn, which is quite reflective in the episodes that you're going to hear, actually. So I'm going to be doing a different format moving forward. First of all, it's going to be publicly available across platforms wherever you listen to podcasts. So whether that's Apple or Spotify or literally wherever you listen to it. There's also going to be a YouTube version that will have captions. So you can go check that out, and there'll be artwork and photographs of the people that I'm interviewing, and little tidbits, links, and resources that are mentioned throughout the different podcast episodes will be available there as well. Second of all, format-wise, you will be receiving episodes from me bi-weekly until the end of this year. So for the next 3 months, I want to say. And they're mostly going to be comprised of older episodes that I've kind of had as archival for the past 4 years that I've recorded over the past 4 years with different guests of mine, incorporated with solo episodes from me, either preparing for the episode that's coming that week or reflecting on the episode of the previous week. And I'm also going to make space for you guys to be able to send in your requests for anything that you might want to suggest as far as topics go or guests that you might want me to interview. I'll try my best, of course, but it's been really fruitful and really beautiful. A lot of amazing people have been really responsive and open and have given me some incredible episodes that I can't wait to share with you guys. You have been able to talk to such incredible people, and that's also kind of my intention with this as well, is to introduce you guys to amazing thinkers and artists and practitioners and healers and thinkers and authors and poets and all of my amazing friends friends and, people who have become friends through this process of meeting them to interview them for my podcast. People who I really admire, people who I think are so special and whose visions are so vital for this world that I'm envisioning, that we're all envisioning, this world that goes beyond this duopoly and these binary paradigms that do not allow for the full expression of love to come through us and to exist and coexist amongst us. I think that that's the most important part about this, and what I hope you take away every time you listen to a conversation, every time you listen to me speak, whether it's me or with my friends or with my guests in these episodes. I really want you to just be able to walk away with the feeling of being a little less alone in this world and feeling a little more seen and sane, and like there's hope, like there's a lot of us who think this way, like there's a way for us to move forward that doesn't contribute to the continuation of the trauma, that doesn't contribute to us feeling so panicked. Because when our individual nervous systems are so dysregulated, that's why we see the chaos that we see in the world. I'm firmly on that opinion that the majority of the reason why the chaos ensues the way that it does, and we all watch it happen, we're in fight or flight mode or freeze mode or fawn mode. And that's kind of like the stages of how we get when our nervous systems are dysregulated. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of different conversations within the series that I'm about to start releasing for you. Those of you, again, who have already listened to these podcast episodes, maybe there's a new thing you can find within these episodes that you maybe didn't understand before because it was so long ago that you heard it. Or maybe it's a new perspective or a new take or something that speaks to something you're going through now that you weren't necessarily going through before. That's what I hope for these podcast episodes. That's what I hope for this podcast in general, for whoever finds it and whoever it reaches. I hope that you feel, like I said, a little more seen and sane. At the end of the day, we're all genuinely in this together while we live on this planet together. So like I said, bi-weekly, you'll be receiving them on Mondays and Wednesdays at 5 a.m., wherever you listen to podcasts, like I mentioned. And once a month, I will be doing a Q&A episode where any questions that you send in to me, same place you would send all of your suggestions, I'll be answering so that we can get some interaction going as well. I can't wait to hear your feedback and answer some of your questions and hear your recommendations and suggestions. I want this to be interactive, and I want to know that you guys are following along and learning and growing with me and along with me through this journey. You can reach out to attunementpodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us on TikTok, Instagram, at Attunement Podcast. Literally at Attunement Podcast. And attunement is spelled ATTUNEMENT, if you don't know, by looking at all of the different little titles around you. I am really excited to share these episodes with you. I feel like there's a lot of wisdom in them. There's a lot of channeling in them. There's a lot of gems and gifts for whoever this reaches. And my prayer is that it reaches as many people as possible, as always. It's my wish for everything that I create while I'm here. In the next few episodes, I'm actually going to be centering around the 2024 election. Now, I have not spoken publicly about what I'm going to be doing yet. I have just been pretty vocal about, I have a lot of opinions, and I've been sharing them pretty publicly throughout the past year. But my main concern stays that the duopoly is killing us all, and that Democrats in power right now, do heinous shit and are funded by the same people that are funding. This is my real point, right? Because people can say they're going to do a lot of things. How Harris talks about, they're going to save Gaza, they're going to save reproductive rights, they're going to do all these amazing things. But they can't change who's in the Supreme Court right now yet. There's two that might fall out that they could replace. But to say that they're going to replace them necessarily with anyone who's going to be progressive in the ways that I personally need to be progressive right now, like, it's not even a question about whether or not I'm being controversial for me. It's just a matter of, like, I want to access people's humanity again. I want to get back to the point where we turn on our fucking humanity, our collective humanity, and we realize what's going on. We all accept what's going on. We stop living in denial. We stop letting criminals lie to us. We vote with our conscience, Because again, for me, I don't give a fuck about what comes out of nobody's mouth. I care about what the pockets are doing. And the pockets are all being funded by the same folks. And the same folks are all billionaire, corporate, lobbyists, and donors who have special interests. And in my opinion, something that they don't call this that, but I believe it's insider trading and money laundering, the way that they do these wars and have stock in them. Like, there's a lot of opinions that I have about all of these politicians across red and blue. And my issue with that is that I don't believe any one of the two are going to make any kinds of decisions that actually breed seeds for our future. I feel like they're both really still invested in the old world paradigm. And what the Harris administration is doing, not the Harris administration, excuse me, the Biden-Harris administration is doing right now currently, because Biden is still president, is some of the most heinous war criminal shit I've ever seen in my life. And if I'm being quite frank, I personally can't even pretend that I can vote for that. I can't. It actually sends chills down my spine right now to speak about it. And if I can talk to you about what I'm feeling physically when I talk about it, like, I literally feel ill. Like, my body starts to shake. Like, I feel sick. I feel sick and horrified at what this past year has shown me about where so many people are at. But also, I am so fucking energized too by how many people are willing to speak and stand up, and who still give a fuck and who have a heart. I refuse to only allow, sorry, I sound crazy, wow, but I refuse to only allow what they try to show us be what I see, because I see everyone else who's here and who's ready for these conversations, and who's ready to do something different, and who's ready to make a statement, and who's ready to plant seeds, and who's ready to move forward in a different direction collectively, so that we can all bring something new to the planet. And I know that I'm just one person. I know I'm just one person, but I feel so strongly, and maybe that's why I'm crying right now. I feel so strongly that so many of these conversations are healing enough. And I feel so strongly that we can do something about this world that they're telling us we have to live in. And I feel like we can say no, and I feel like we can really create something outside of it, and we can divest from it, and we can move our energies towards new realities and new ways of imagining wealth and community and safety and care for especially the most vulnerable amongst us. Because I truly believe that one of the strongest traits, if you will, we talk about strength as something that must be attained through powerlessness, right? You have to make someone or others feel powerlessness and hopelessness in order to feel dominion over them and for you to feel powerful. But I don't believe that that is power. And I believe that more than anything right now, we're in dire need of leaders who care about the soul of us all and who care about this planet the way that I do and who care about this world the way that so many of us do. And I think that we all need to find each other and start imagining together and making these worlds and teaching each other and holding each other through it and creating the spaces that we can invest our time, energy, and attention into to create these new worlds. And again, my goal for this entire podcast going out into the world and for however many iterations of it get to come to fruition, I want to interview people who are changing the world. I want to talk to people who are doing the work every single day in their personal lives and in their communities and through their practices and through their art and through their words and dances, whatever it is that I feel drawn to about them and their vision. And I want to just talk to them. These are free flow conversations because they're really genuinely free form. I don't plan anything. I don't, like right now, I'm talking to you freestyle off the dome. Like I'm sure you can feel it. There's little edits here and there, of course, but these conversations are literally free form. I don't plan what I'm going to ask. I don't get to the bottom of certain points. I don't have talking points, really. I really sit here and I talk to people that I admire and I ask them the things that I want to know. And I talk to them about the things that I want to talk to them about. I want you to feel like you're tuning in and getting attuned to the frequency that we're on and that we want to create. Because it's all a matter of creation, right? Like, we can change our frequency at any point. We can change our perspective at any point. We can change our mind at any point. We can change our realities at any point. We can change an outcome at any point. And that's, I think, what we have to all realize. We've allowed motherfuckers to tell us that we are not powerful. And really, if enough of us feel powerful enough, we're really that powerful. And so I want to empower you to feel powerful. And I want you to hear these conversations, tune in, if you will. So the first episodes you'll be receiving will be leading up to the election, conversations with third-party candidates. Throughout this past year, I've had conversations on my live. The PSL party, Claudia de la Cruz, and Karina Garcia. I've had conversations with Dr. Cornel West. Now I've had a conversation with Dr. Jill Stein and her VP, Professor Butch Ware, Rudolph Ware. All third party and all three conversations I had to have for myself. I'm giving them to y'all and doing them in front of people to share the insight because I really want us to see. I want us to see that we have options. That there's, not only is it possible, there are people out here who actually give a fuck about us, who actually care about the world. And I want us to start to believe in investing in them because we take our power for granted when we don't. There's nothing serving us on the other side of that. The concept of democracy should, if nothing else, be contingent upon the idea that the people vote with the people's will. It's not about putting people in a position where they have the option between two evils that they call one of lesser than the other because one smiles better than the other when doing the heinous work. It is truly about having the choice of voting with intention and voting from our moral standing and voting with our values. And it's very evident that the duopoly at this point, no matter what side of the spectrum you look at, they are pushing for a world that is more destructive, that feeds the pockets of billionaire stock shareholders and all of these kinds of realities that extract from the average person and allow for the upper echelons to continue to hoard and extract power and resources for their profit and gain at the expense of so many innocent people around the globe children, men, women, human beings alike, animal beings alike, the land, the water, the air. All of us are suffering. And there are direct consequences that we're dealing with right now here in the United States, all over the United States. The ways that these floods, the hurricanes, the fires, the Amazon burning intentionally. The thing is, all of these things are also connected. And it's important for us to pay attention to how these politicians play into these games. And I'm personally interested in this round of using my vote for something, in making a statement. In making a statement about the fact that we are not, the red line isn't swayable. You don't get to ignore our demands that you stop this genocide. You don't get to ignore our demands that you use our own tax dollars to take care of us. You don't get to ignore our demands that you divest from policing and fascism and police states and into the community care instead. You don't get to decide that that's not what you're going to do if we're the ones voting for you. And you also don't get to dangle our human rights, our basic human rights, in front of our faces as bargaining chips for our votes. You don't get to say, do you want to save democracy? Do you want to make sure you have rights? When under your own leadership, you have done nothing to enshrine those rights. And the Supreme Court has completely gone rogue at this point and is completely conservative and fascist and is rolling back rights of ours that were established from years ago. And using the fear-mongering as a political tactic, to me, is weak. It is a weak tactic. Because not only are so many so intelligent, so many are being manipulated by lies, and you're trying to hold the Republicans accountable for the way that they fearmonger and lie, but then you do the same in other circumstances. When you have an inconsistency of moral clarity, you are not dependable or trustworthy, and you cannot buy that from the people. And there are plenty of people who say that voting third party is throwing our vote away to Trump. Trump is going to get his votes from the people who want to vote for Trump. The same way that Kamala is going to get her votes from the people who want to vote for Kamala, because they both had their time to do their campaigns. I believe that Claudia de la Cruz, Dr. Cornel West, and Dr. Joe Stein all also had their time during this time. The fact of the matter is that big media did not pay attention to them, did not interview them, did not platform them, and were actively thwarting the ability for them to reach larger audiences. And they also actively have people in the media speaking out against them and discrediting them, or not even acknowledging them in most cases. And this, to me, is where the issue lies in talking about democracy. Because if we were a true democracy in the way that democracy is practiced in a lot of functioning democracies around the world, because we're not isolationists, we're not the only thing that exists, okay? There are options between parties. There are not just two options that get to play with your emotions and get backed by the same donor dollars. That's not the way that works, that's not the way it's supposed to work. We need to get big money out of politics. We need to get and make sure that elections are publicly funded. We need to make sure that our Congress people cannot profit off of wars. People who are in public service should not be able to have stock ownership in things that they can make decisions on and make laws about. That is just inherently criminal. And I'm personally at a point where I'm fed up and tired of the illusion and the puppeteering that I feel goes on a daily basis through, mass media propaganda and through these kinds of very singular conversations that do not hold space for nuance or growth or potential. And that's really, again, another thing that I really want to bring to the world through this space is these conversations that hold space for nuance, that hold space for the fact that it's a messy step towards where we got to go, that it is a long-term commitment to a movement and not just something you're tapping in with every 4 years. And it is about creating creative conversation and having the capacity to want better for ourselves and to put action towards that want, towards that desire. We can't just talk about how shitty everything is and how they're fucking us over and how the left and the right are the same and all of this stuff and not have active solutions for it. And when I see people talking, even the undecided movement, When I saw what the undecided movement finally decided, I realized there was no decision, because at the end of the day, you are going to vote for who you want to vote for, and I want you to vote for who you want to vote for, and that's my point. But the people I'm trying to talk to right now are the people who, A, are not going to vote, but can vote, are eligible to vote, and are not going to use their vote because they don't believe in the duopoly. I'm talking to them. I'm talking to you. I'm also talking to Democrats who are sick and tired of what the hell the Democrats are doing, because I'm a registered Democrat, and I only did that so I can vote in primaries, and because I believed in everything for a really long time. I'm just now getting to a point of understanding what's going on that makes me feel comfortable enough to make this kind of decision and make it out loud and make it with intention, because I know that even if it's just energetically, I cannot contribute to either one of those two candidates, because I did not choose Kamala. We were denied democratic process during the primaries, and I was following that actively, and that distressed me to begin with. And I will never vote for Trump or a Republican ever in my life, because the point that they've gotten to with their rhetoric and their just full-blown, just so many lies and so much propaganda and so much manipulation. I can't even stomach listening to it a lot of the time, but I do, because I want perspective. And I understand from the lay perspective of the people who are not involved in politics, the people who are not playing billionaire class games and donor dollar games and lobbyist games, the people who get affected by policies, the people who get affected by the things that happen. There is no active change between, no matter who is in the presidential seat, because they are all serving the same masters, and that is the issue at hand. And so I want to be a part of making a statement, if nothing else, making a statement about what people power looks like and is capable of when it conglomerates towards what our values are, and is actually a choice is actually driven by our values. And these Green Party candidates, we talk about, oh, they'll never work, it'll never happen, the Electoral College, all these things, right? Valid, but don't we want to abolish that? Every single person who says that felt the same way, and every single person who feels the same way and isn't going to vote anyway, all moved. Like, all Republicans who are like, dude, I cannot get with this party's like energy at all anymore. They're so absurdist, and they've completely lost the plot, which is, by the way, who the Democrats are also trying to pick up. If all of you guys who believe that they're both, don't believe in the duopoly, and we're voting for Trump in the first place, the first round, because he was like, oh, he's a businessman, he cares about business, whatever. But you've gotten to a point where you know better now, you're either not going to vote, or you're going to vote Democrat, or you can vote a completely new way and use your energy to say that you want a new reality. And if they get 5% of the popular vote, just 5% of the popular vote, they can be on the ballot in 2028. And that's whoever we decide to get behind. But I think we should get behind a candidate altogether before the final day of election. And there's nothing, I can't convince anyone who's going to vote for Kamala to vote for, Green Party or PSL, any of them. I can't convince y'all for that. Same way I can't convince a Trump supporter to vote for anyone but Trump. And that's valid. But I'm speaking to everyone else. And so I think we should do something collectively, because I bring it back to people power, empowerment, understanding what we're capable of when we unite our energy towards something instead of only divesting. Our only way of interacting with these systems can not only be to divest from them, although that's an important step. We also need to be organizing ourselves and our power towards the things that we want to bring into reality. And if we want to live in an America that has ranked choice voting, that doesn't get involved in foreign wars and put profit over people, that actually sticks to its values, that actually doesn't have a hypocritical gap between what they say they want to do and their actions, or who they say they want to be in their actions as far as leaders go, I think that we can really get to a point of creating the realities that we need to reestablish or to set the stage for our future generations that are not based off of extractive systems, which is the point, right? That's what we're trying to do. And that's also, again, what attunement is trying to do. I feel like I've been talking for way too long by myself now. But if you're still here, thank you for being here. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you found me and that I found you and that we can get attuned together. You see what I did there? That we can attune together to the same frequency. Yes. I think it's so, it makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, that's what we're doing here. So yeah, welcome my friends, and let's heal together and let's have these convos and let's talk about it. Yeah. Peace. Mwah.